Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Ella, and for today I'm going to be showing you a couple of book recommendations if you are wanting to learn more about German. I was gonna say German and Germanic. German or Germanic, folklore and magic and witchery. So these are a couple of books that I have collected and they're in English. So this is like the English version of this video. I have a similar one over on my channel. If you're looking for German books, then it's a German video, so I'll link that. But yeah, let's get straight into it. A couple of books that you may already have seen on my channel before. The first one is going to be Alpine Witchery, Austrian Folk Magic Lore and Spellcraft. I'm pulling this one first because I'm first of all still not finished. And with that being said, I have read enough as to where I feel like I can confidently say this one is amazing. This one is such a great book that I feel like I'm kind of a little bit like, finally. I feel like this book is what I've been hoping for, that someone finally wrote. And it is a look at the Alpine kind of traditional lore, and it is based on and sourcing a lot of the old German witch trial records, which is amazing. Not the trials, but the sourcing. I find the sourcing in here to be fabulous because it is actually finally sourced. A lot of witchcraft books that are about German magic are incredibly new age, or they are just like, where are you getting this information from? Again, very new age, a lot of times very modern, like spell jars or whatever, right? And it's not very based in fact. And the alternative, of course, a lot of times is like highly problematic. So that this book is a newly published work, and it is so well researched, and it is by someone who actually has lived experience in this region. That's why I'm really recommending this one. Of course, if you are interested more in the Southern German region, which is where I'm from, which is where I live. So of course, you know, gotta recommend that one. Now, in that same vein, let's stick to the witchcraft trials. We've got The Witch's Hammer. You might be wondering why on earth would I recommend this? This horrible book that has cost genuinely so much pain. If you don't know anything about the witch trials, please research this. This is part of our history as witches. But the Malleus Maleficarum was of course written by two Germans, though not in German. This is an English translation, and I've heard also others say that this is one of the better translations. It's Cambridge University. And why am I recommending The Witch's Hammer? It is again part of our history, and I think that it is incredibly important to know your history so that you don't repeat your history. And this one is really, really good to have, just so that you have that perspective, so that you have a base and a foundation of knowledge, that, you know, you understand where a lot of our charms come from, and where a lot of the witchcraft lore comes from is from the witch trials. And so having this is really, really important. Again, there also certainly are spells in here and are charms in here that they kind of wrote out of the perspective of like, this is how you can recognize a witch. Don't do these. So in a funny sense, in an ironic twist of fate, the Christians have a lot of times preserved a lot of magic for us. So that's why I'm recommending this one. Now I'm gonna pull a German book, however it exists in English as well. This one is Göttin Holle by Gunnivor's Goose. Now the German, or rather Germanic, goddess Holle or Holda or Berchta is of course of really, really big importance. If you are interested in German folk magic, you'll stumble upon her eventually. She's an Indo-European goddess, and this book includes all the information, well, not all of the information, but you know what I mean. It's a really, really nice one for getting started on that journey, if that is something that you're interested in. It's kind of like saying, oh, you want to get into Norse magic, you should probably know who Odin and Freya are. And it's kind of like this. And again, it does exist in English, so I really, really appreciated that. And yeah, really recommend that. Now, I do have a video on my channel about the goddess Holle, so if that is something that you are interested in, without wanting to spend money on a book immediately, go check out that video, because I do explain to you and introduce you to this goddess. The next one, again, a German title. Why am I pulling German titles in this video where I said it's gonna be English? Again, they exist in English. I just don't have the English version. This next one is Hexenmedizin by a couple of authors, Claudia Müller-Eberling, Christian Rätsch, Wolf-Dieter Stoll. So this one I think witch medicine in English. I'm not really sure. You'll have it on screen here, but this one is the German version. This one is a really great one. Again, very historical. It's more so focused on the plants, of course, within witchcraft, but I find that if you are overlooking plants in witchcraft, like I know that some people are like, oh, I don't really care about like plants. Like why do I care about plants? Because we need to understand the evolution that happened with witchcraft as to where it is today and the animistic origins of what we have today, right? Animism is the first ever spiritual religion, or that's at least what anthropologists say, that then eventually evolved into different pantheons. And plants are a big factor that is sometimes overlooked, because plants is what people had all around them. Certain trees were all around us, certain shrubs were all around us, and I think the more you get into witchcraft, the more you start realizing how important actually plant spirits are, and the different poisonous plants or plants that are healing. A lot of the old folk charms include plants. Some of the most important witchcraft lore, for example, a witch on a broomstick comes from the witch's ointment, which of course is just a bunch of different plants for the most part. You might have a little bit of like blood of a bat thrown in there, but for the most part it is plants. And the importance that plants have in witchcraft should not be overlooked. And so therefore, this one is highly recommended. The next one, I again haven't finished reading it yet, but it is such a cool one. I'm so excited to stumble upon this one. This one is Krampus, the Krampus and the Old Dark Christmas, Roots and Rebirth of the Folkloric Devil by Alriden Noor. Now this one, I know he has a podcast, so if you wanna check out the podcast first before getting yourself like a book, definitely recommend. His podcast is really fun. But if you are into German folk magic, German paganism, or any of that sort of stuff, you're gonna have to look into our folk creatures and the history of that. And also I love the inclusion of the folkloric devil, because a lot of times, again, German books, there's no devil in the craft. And you know, threefold law, and it's kind of just like Wicca mashed up with a bunch of cultural appropriation. So I really appreciate that we're finally getting more of these folkloric type books in German, or focusing on German, of course. So this, or Alpine region especially. So this one is a really fascinating one that also includes Frau Perchta and a lot of these old traditions that we have down here, again in the Alpine region for the most part. Such cool, look at that. Things where, for example, you would probably never even think about the importance of Santa Claus and where he comes from. And yeah, so it's just a really cool one that I think is very prevalent, not just in this Christmas time, of course, but in general, because of course these spirits, they might be the most prevalent during Christmas time, during that winter time, because it is very important in German in general. But in general, this is just great information to read about. It kind of gives you a sense of the German spirits in general, and that is why I think it is rather important to look at those too. Now, a little bit of a wild card, I'm just gonna throw this in there. It is my book. This one is the German version, but of course I also have that original in English. That I do include a little bit of German folk magic in there as well, sprinkled in here and there. Not exclusively, I will openly admit that. Not that that is necessarily something to admit, but if you are interested in a little bit of German folk magic, you can find some in my book as well. And the last one, and this is an interesting one because again, it doesn't necessarily exclusively pertain to German folk magic, but it does include a lot, is Dream Divination Plants in the Northern European Tradition by Corinne Boyer. Now this is the smallest, littlest book you ever did see, and I will say all of Corinne's work focuses primarily on Central European, Northern European plant lore, folklore, so I can really recommend her in general. I love her work so much. But this one, of course, again, because it is about dream divination plants, we have a lot of folklore with that again. Why? Because of the witch trials and things like that, the spirit ointment. So again, get yourself your history books. But this one is a really cool one because it does have a lot of German folk charms and folk magic in here as well. Little parts of, you know, folklore sprinkled in here. that I find really interesting, also further reading, because she always sources her books really well. This one and a lot of her other books, for example Plans of the Devil or The Witch's Cabinet, are highly recommended. I'm just pulling specifically this one because it does focus a little bit more on that. But if you're interested in German or Central European witchcraft, have a look at Corinne Boyer's works. They tend to be on Amazon, not of course only Amazon, but if that is a source that you like to use, because I know that Troy Books is a little harder to get, especially in the United States, but Three Hands Press should be pretty easy for everyone to access. So if you have any books that you would like to recommend on the German folk tradition, on German folk magic, witchcraft in Germany, please leave them down in the comments below. I do always look at them, I always read them, and I have bought a couple of the suggestions that I have seen in my comments, so please don't stop leaving these great comments. I really want to thank you for them. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, subscribe, and hit that recommendation. No, hold on a second, that was wrong. Please, if you like this video, hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell. There we go. And of course, if you want to recommend this video to your friends, I'd be more than grateful. Also, of course, the best way to support me and my channel is by checking out my Patreon as well as my witchcraft shop, which again, of course, is based in Germany. All of that is linked below. My Patreon is, as a matter of fact, another way that you can learn more about German folk magic, because I like to include a lot of that in my Patreon. So if that is something that you really want to take a deeper dive on, I do have that over there with a couple of articles that you can read and also exclusive videos and such things. So definitely go check that out. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video and may you walk with your gods. Bye!